Okay, let's unpack this. I mean, imagine stepping onto a crowded subway train during rush
Oh,
hour.
standard daily commute, right.
Exactly. You are packed in tight, looking at the stranger across the aisle who is, well, avoiding eye contact just as actively as you are.
Yeah, just trying to survive the ride.
Right. But now, imagine realizing in that exact moment that you literally share a nervous system with them. Like, what happens to your brain when the line between you and them completely disappears?
That is quite the cognitive leap.
It really is. And welcome to the deep dive. Because today we are exploring a text that demands that exact level of cognitive rewiring.
It definitely does.
We have this short, but honestly incredibly dense excerpt from a work called The Architecture of Collective Divinity, and this comes to us through Ref PS.
And it is a conceptually massive piece of writing. I mean, it essentially takes a sledgehammer to the foundation of how modern society tells us we are supposed to function.
Yeah, it really does not hold back.
Not at all. And then it offers this completely different blueprint for human interaction.
And just to be clear with you, the listener, the mission of our discussion today is to really explore that radical paradigm shift. We are moving away from the exhaustion of being isolated individuals.
Always competing, always defending our territory.
Exactly. And we are analyzing what it actually means to operate as part of a connected collective divinity. Because, let's be honest, our default setting right now is pure scarcity.
Right. It is very survival-based.
Yeah, the world often feels like a battle royale video game. You drop onto the map and everyone you see is either a stranger who is in your way or a competitor you have to defeat to survive.
Which, makes perfect sense from an evolutionary standpoint. Our brains are hardwired to track threats and secure resources for our immediate in-group.
So it is biology.
Well, yes, but the text begins by identifying that default setting as a fundamental illusion of separation. It presents a very clear counterpremise. Right?
Okay, lay it on me.
It says profound transformation only occurs when we stop viewing each other as separate, competing fragments of existence. Instead, we have to start seeing every single individual as a unique expression of one vast source flowing through life.
I mean, that sounds beautiful in theory, right? But if we operate from this idea that we are essentially one organism, what does that actually do to our brains?
That is the big question.
Because right now, personally, I feel immense pressure to be the smartest person in the room. To have all the answers, just to keep my head above water.
And that pressure is exactly what the text targets first. Think about it. If you and I are just separate fragments, then your resources take away from mine.
Right, zero sum.
Exactly. And my ignorance becomes a fatal weakness. But if we are unique expressions of the exact same vast source, well, the entire architecture changes.
So the pressure's off.
In a way, yeah. And this brings us to the text's first major paradigm shift, which is a total redefinition of omniscience.
Okay, so usually when we hear the word omniscience, we think of the ultimate database.
Right.
A single supreme entity or some supercomputer that holds all facts, all pasts, all futures.
The all-knowing solitary genius. But the text explicitly states that for humanity, no single individual contains all visible knowledge in isolation.
So no one has the whole picture.
No one person is designed to have the whole picture. Instead, every single person carries a highly specific perspective. It could be a gift, a lesson, or a lived experience that another person simply does not possess.
Wow. Okay, I want to ground this in something tangible because it reminds me a lot of distributed computing.
Oh, that is an interesting connection.
Right. Think about how astrophysicists map the universe or how medical researchers fold complex proteins.
Right. Massive amounts of data.
Exactly. No single supercomputer is powerful enough to process all that massive data on its own. It would literally melt. So instead, they link millions of regular, everyday laptops together over the internet.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, each laptop just runs a tiny specific piece of the code in the background, but together they map a galaxy or they cure a disease.
That makes total sense.
We have basically been running around acting like standalone supercomputers that are constantly overheating when we are actually meant to be nodes in a network.
That is a brilliant way to frame it, honestly. The text argues that human consciousness functions exactly like a distributed network. And the mechanics of how this knowledge flows, well, they rely on two specific behavioral inputs.
Which are?
Humility and openness. When you stop defending your ego and pretending you have all the processing power, you free up cognitive bandwidth to actually absorb data from others.
Because you aren't so defensive.
Exactly. What one person knows perfectly complements what another has discovered. True omniscience isn't one isolated person knowing everything. It is the whole continuously revealing itself through each part.
And the text goes even further than just sharing data, right? It says that one person's experience literally becomes wisdom for another.
Yes, it is very explicit about that.
So, like, if you have already touched the hot stove and learned the lesson, I don't need to touch the stove. I can just download your wisdom, assuming I'm open to it.
Exactly. By offering what we have without the anxiety of needing to know everything else, we allow the larger picture to emerge. We essentially become a living expression of collective omniscience.
Okay, so if the distributed network solves the knowledge problem, what happens when the network gets hostile?
Ah, the human element.
Right, because it is one thing to share intellectual data or professional insights. It is an entirely different thing to share space with someone who completely repulses you.
That is true.
I mean, we are surrounded by people with vastly different backgrounds, statuses, and worldviews. And let's face it, some of them hold beliefs we might find deeply offensive.
Which brings us to the second major redefinition in the text, and that is omnipresence.
Okay, again, usually a physical thing, right?
Traditionally, yes. The definition is a physical state of being everywhere at once. But the text reframes omnipresence as a state of deep, empathetic awareness regarding the people right in front of you.
Empathy as presence.
Right. It challenges us to look past surface-level divisions. Appearances, cultures, religions, status, backgrounds.
Wait, I have to push back here.
Sure, go ahead.
How does that actually work in reality? Let's say that expression of the source just cut me off in traffic, nearly caused a wreck, and then flipped me off.
A classic scenario.
Right. My biological fight or flight response is screaming at me. Cortisol is just flooding my system. The text says compassion grows naturally when we recognize the source in others.
It does say that.
How on earth does compassion grow naturally when my biology is telling me I am actively under attack?
Well, that is the ultimate test of this framework. It requires looking at the mechanism of empathy itself. When someone cuts you off, your brain immediately assigns them a label.
Threat, enemy, idiot.
Exactly. And once that label is applied, your empathy completely shuts down. The text is asking us to intercept that labeling process.
Just stop it in its tracks.
Yes, because it points out that when we truly see the shared presence moving through all people, the literal distance between us and them collapses. To use an anatomical analogy, think of it as a spiritual nervous system. If you accidentally hit your thumb with a hammer, your right hand doesn't judge the left hand.
No, it just hurts.
Right. Your vocal cords yell, your knees might buckle. The whole system reacts because it is connected by the exact same nervous network.
Because the pain is localized, but the system is universal.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And we actually see this in neurology with mirror neurons. When we watch someone else get physically injured, our own brains light up in the pain centers.
Oh, wow. So we actually feel it.
We do. We are hardwired to feel each other's state of being. But our societal conditioning, those labels of division we just talked about, they override our natural empathy.
They act like a blocker.
Yeah. This text suggests that omnipresence is the profound awareness that the exact same life force animates every single person. When you strip away the social labels, their joy becomes your joy, and their pain becomes your concern.
Because you are part of the same organism. It really shifts the internal question from, how are you a threat to me, to how is the source expressing itself through you right now, even if you are doing it incredibly clumsily?
Which changes everything.
It completely diffuses the fight or flight response. You can't maintain profound hatred towards someone when you view them as a vital, albeit currently misguided, expression of your own life force.
And that de-escalation is crucial because you really cannot access the final stage of this architecture if you are still trapped in conflict.
Right. Okay, so we have collective knowledge through the distributed network of minds.
Yeah.
We have this shared nervous system of empathy. Where does power factor into this? Because historically speaking, the percent of power is exactly what breaks cooperative systems down.
It usually is. And this is where the text provides its third and arguably most disruptive redefinition: omnipotence, the ultimate power.
Okay, lay out the new version for me.
To understand the text's version, we first have to look at the mechanics of the old paradigm. How do we traditionally gain power in a separated worldview?
By pushing others down. I mean, the text explicitly calls out suppressing, envying, or diminishing one another. It is a zero-sum game.
Right, a finite pie.
Yeah, if there is only one pie and I want a bigger slice, I have to make sure you get a smaller one.
It is an architecture of scarcity. But the new paradigm, this architecture of collective divinity, it treats power as an infinite resource.
Infinite. How does that work?
It states that true omnipotence is generated exclusively by awakening the greatness hidden within each other.
But let's look at the actual mechanism there, because the text says, quote, encouragement ignites courage.
It does.
Which sounds like a really nice motivational poster, but what is actually happening beneath the surface?
What is happening is a profound psychological intervention. When someone is facing a terrifying obstacle, their amygdala, the fear center of the brain, is highly active.
It is telling them to retreat.
Exactly. But when you offer them genuine encouragement, you are providing psychological safety. You are fundamentally altering their neurochemistry.
Just by encouraging them.
Yes. That external validation lowers their stress hormones, which then allows their prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for complex problem solving and courage, to take over.
Oh, wow.
You are literally manufacturing internal courage where there was none a moment before.
So you are basically transferring energy.
In a very real sense, yes.
And the text follows that by saying, love awakens confidence. Which makes total sense, because when you feel genuinely seen and valued by someone for who you are, rather than what you can produce for them, a massive cognitive load is lifted.
You don't have to spend energy masking your flaws.
Right, or defending your ego. Your confidence naturally rises, and you bring your full capacity to the table.
And then we reach the final part of that sequence. The text says, unity multiplies strength. Notice the verb there.
Doesn't say adds.
Right? It doesn't say unity adds strength, it multiplies it. This is the concept of nonlinear scaling. When individuals work together with a shared purpose and deep trust, the output is exponentially greater than the sum of its parts.
So omnipotence isn't about how many people you can push down. It is about how much weight you can lift together.
That is the perfect distillation of the text. The pinnacle of this architecture is that the power within one soul actively strengthens another soul. We basically feed into each other in a continuous loop.
An infinite loop of power.
Yes. And together, humanity rises to a level of capability that no isolated individual or solitary tyrant ever could achieve. This is collective omnipotence, infinite power awakening through united hearts, united minds, and a united purpose.
Okay, let's take a breath and synthesize all of this, because we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today.
We really have.
We have explored 3 massive paradigm shifts from the architecture of collective divinity. First, we moved away from the crushing pressure of needing to know everything ourselves.
Right, the distributed network.
Yeah, by recognizing that we are nodes in that network, we unlock collective omniscience. The idea that shared wisdom flows naturally when we offer our unique perspectives with humility.
And second, we examined omnipresence, not as a mystical physical state, but as shared empathy. By looking past surface-level divisions and recognizing the same underlying presence in everyone, we activate our spiritual nervous system.
So compassion stops being a forced moral obligation.
Exactly. Becomes a biological and spiritual reflex.
And finally, we arrived at a totally flipped definition of omnipotence. Power is no longer a zero-sum game of dominance and suppression. True power is mutual upliftment.
Multiplying our strength.
Right. Through the neurobiology and spiritual reality of encouragement and love, unity multiplies our strength, allowing us to rise exponentially higher together.
And to you, listening to this deep dive right now, we really want to emphasize that this is a highly practical day-to-day tool.
It isn't just philosophy.
Not at all. The next time you are sitting at your desk feeling completely overwhelmed by information overload or feeling like an imposter because you don't have all the answers, remember the concept of collective omniscience.
You aren't supposed to have all the answers.
Exactly. You just need to be open to the network.
And the next time you find yourself feeling alienated by societal division or your fight or flight response kicks in because of a frustrating encounter, try to intercept that label.
Just pause.
Yeah. Look at the stranger and ask how the source is trying to express itself through them. It completely diffuses the tension and changes how you listen, how you lead, and really how you exist in the world.
It is basically a complete operating system upgrade for the human experience.
It really is. Which brings us to our final thought for today. We want to leave you with something to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, building directly on the text's assertion that one person's experience becomes wisdom for another, and that power within one soul strengthens another.
It is a great question to reflect on.
It is. If our individual experiences are actually meant to become wisdom for someone else, who in your life is currently waiting for the exact lesson you just learned? And conversely, whose completely different perspective are you currently dismissing that actually holds the exact missing piece of knowledge you need today?